constant fear of Germany before the First World War was a war on both the French and the Russian front. Germany would be surrounded, which would lead to defeat due to this huge disadvantage. Because of this, Germany has adopted the Schlieffen Plan, created by General Count Alfred von Schlieffen in December 1905, which was created 9 years before this war broke out. The aim of the plan was to sweep through neutral Belgium onto France, so Germany could encircle Paris. All the troops of Germany would contribute to this plan, and the aim was to knock out France before the Russian army could mobilize its forces at the Eastern Front. In fact, the Schlieffen Plan was almost successful. The German advance was stopped by the First Battle of Marne due to poor communication and due to a lack of supporting resources for the army. Other factors that led to the failure of the Schlieffen Plan was that it assumed that Great Britain wasn't supporting Belgium, but in fact, they did. Furthermore, German troops didn't even capture France, which led to the trench warfare since they both couldn't advance in the enemy's territory. At last, Russian troops mobilized more quickly than 6 weeks, so troops at the Western Front had to be transported to defend at the Eastern Front.
The Battle of the Frontiers were 4 battles launched by Joseph Joffre, a French commander-in-chief, and Helmut von Moltke, a German chief. These battles were the Battle of the Ardennes, the Battle of Lorraine, the Battle of Mons, and the Battle of Charleroi. It started in August, which was the first month of the First World War. The battles were fought over large and long areas of land, from the Swiss frontiers to Mons in Belgium. During these battles, the Germans forced the French to retreat back towards the Marne and Paris by advancing through the right flank of Belgium and so attacking the French borders. The 4 battles all started almost at the same time, causing a collision between the strategies of the French, Plan 17, and the Schlieffen Plan of the Germans. The Battle of Lorraine lasted from the 14th of August till the 7th of September and was part of the French Battle Plan 17. Alsace-Lorraine had been part of the French territory until 1871, when Germany conquered it. For this reason, France wanted to recapture it. France wanted to take Alsace-Lorraine back and defend against the Germans, so that Russia would have enough time to mobilize its army and attack Germany from the other side. After the Germans destroyed the French forces during the Battle of Lorraine, 2 simultaneous battles started on August 21st and 22nd, in both the Ardennes and a little village called Charleroi. The Battle of the Ardennes lasted from the 21st till the 25th of August, and the Battle of Charleroi from the 22nd till the 23rd of August. On the 22nd of August, as many as 27,000 French soldiers died during both the battles in the Ardennes and Charleroi. The French were supposed to be supported by the BEF, or the British Expeditionary Force, but due to a delay and poor relations with Lanzerac, the British had to fight for their own during the Battle of the Mons on August 23rd. This meant that the French had to fight for their own as well. Nothing more terrible could be imagined. We advanced much too fast. A civilian fired at us. He was immediately shot. We were ordered to attack the enemy flank in a forest of beeches. We lost our direction. The men were done for. The enemy opened fire. Shells came down on us like hail.
The French army was under command of Joseph Joffre. Joffre decided that the best form of defense was to attack. Joffre ordered an attack on the German First Army. On September 6th, 150,000 French soldiers of the 6th Army attacked the right flank of the German army. The Germans had to defend themselves from this attack. As a result, a split occurred in the whole German army attacking Paris, as the German First Army had to redirect its attention towards the French 6th Army. The BEF and the French 5th Army made use of this gap for about 45 kilometers. On September 6th, the French Army managed to increase the gap between the German 1st and 2nd Armies. This further hampered communications for the Germans. This meant that the senior officers commanding a German attack got confusing messages about what was going on in the actual battle zones. Von Moltke, the German chief of staff, feared that the Allies, instead of simply driving a gap between two of his armies, were in a position whereby they could not only halt the German advance, but defeat the German armies involved in an attack on Paris. Because of this communication breakdown, on September 9th, von Moltke ordered his armies to retreat, and they withdrew to an area near the river Aisne. Here, the Germans dug in, and dug trenches.
The First Battle of the Aisne was a follow-up offensive by the Allied forces against the right wing of the German forces in retreat after the First Battle of the Marne in September 1914. The Battle of the Aisne started on the evening of the 12th of September and would last to the 28th of September. The German First Army, under the command of General Alexander von Kluck, and the German Second Army, led by General Karl von Bülow, retreated following the defeat at the First Battle of the Marne. The two joined the new 7th Army, under the lead of von Heeringen, at the northern banks of the Aisne River, where they entrenched themselves. The Allied forces then launched their follow-up offensive in the evening of September 12, 1914. Strategically better placed, the Germans faced the pursuing Allied troops. The British Expeditionary Force and the French 5th and 6th Armies crossed the Aisne, but stiff resistance from the German army foiled any chances of a decisive victory. The German forces demonstrated the present superiority of defensive warfare over its offensive counterpart, deploying machine gun fire and heavy artillery in the defense of their positions. While the stationary troops engaged in warfare, the mobile troops on both sides attempted to outflank the other. Already scaled back by the Allies on 18 September, fighting was abandoned on 28 September, once it finally became clear that neither side, in particular the Allies, would be able to mount frontal attacks upon the well-entrenched positions of the enemy. The most important outcome of the Battle of the Aisne was the commencement of the race to the sea. Both the Allies and the Germans tried to reach the sea. At this point, the Schlieffen Plan ultimately came to an end and had failed. We have failed to complete the Schlieffen Plan. We had to retreat after the Battle of the Marne, after which we were again attacked by the enemy. The generals decided we had to dig ourselves in so that we could still be able to win this battle. Alfred von Schlieffen never expected this attack by the British and French when he created his plan. We can no longer continue this plan and now to try to outflank them. Let's hope this works. I have little faith. In summary, it can be said that the Schlieffen Plan was a daring and bold move of Germany that could prevent the loss of the First World War. In fact, if they had improved communication at the Battle of Marne, there was a great chance to advance to their target, Paris. However, this didn't happen. They lost the decisive battle at Marne, so the French were left undefeated. Besides, the Russian army mobilized far quicker than the expected 6 weeks by Schlieffen, so Germany's biggest fear was a reality now. They were surrounded. The course of the Schlieffen Plan had a huge effect on the further war. It affected the course of the First World War because its failure was the cause for the trench warfare. The failure of the Schlieffen Plan was caused by the repeated defeat of the Germans during the battles at the start of the war. Because the Germans failed to win battles and realized that the Schlieffen Plan was failing, they decided to dig themselves in as a defensive move. This stalemate was almost kept exactly the same during the whole course of the First World War.